Okay, so let's say you believe in God, or let's say you don't. When discussing the body, it doesn't really matter, because from both religious and scientific perspectives, the messages that we get about our bodies are exactly the same. But the funny thing about that is both sides are dead wrong. Today's episode, we're going to stretch your perceptions about your body and its consciousness. Here we go. Welcome to the I Am Podcast, where we answer all the questions about spirituality and inner peace that you ever wanted to ask, and where we learn the secrets of humanity and divinity through a better understanding of both. I am your host, Sean Webb. If this is your first podcast episode with us, yes, this is a spirituality podcast, but the first 25 episodes we're calling the Body, Mind, Spirit 101. They are the basics for the rest of the podcast series, which will hopefully last years. It's here that we learn about how pain and suffering come to be within you, and then and only then can we do some really awesome work in future episodes in actually breaking the system of pain and suffering within you, and thus uncovering your true spiritual existence within that has been the primary quest of man for thousands of years. Now, I've been to that spiritual place and exist there daily, and I can act as a guide to get you there if you first invest the time to understand your human existence and learn about the traps that it can inhibit you from a deeper inner discovery. Now, these first 25 episodes build on each other. So if you haven't already done so, you're going to want to go back and see episodes 2 through 15. And trust me on that, if you want to have a larger level of inner peace in your life, if you want to have a better capacity to be a better parent, if you want to have less conflict in your relationships, if you want to have a better understanding of the mind and the things that block you from being spiritual, go back and watch the back episodes, because it is there that we introduce the body, mind, spirit model, and also where we looked into the human mind and explained some of the things that psychology hasn't explained yet. Although I'm going to show you a video today that is evidence that they're catching up. And where we explain the process of the creation of negative emotions within the mind for the first time in history. Good stuff. So today, we're going to start the body section of the body, mind, spirit model. Now, the body isn't as complex as the mind, at least from an explanation perspective, partially because body science is getting up to speed on the body, at least from an operational perspective. How things work, not necessarily why. But that said, science is trailing in one of the key observations that will eventually allow science to fully understand the body, and that lagging portion of scientific understanding is where science talks about the body like it's a machine. Scientists, biologists, neurologists, doctors, all use terminology to explain the body's functionality like it's an inanimate machine. Just like we would explain the parts of a car. The engine processes potential energy into kinetic energy, the transmission creates the motivational force to drive the shaft, which drives the wheels, then the exhaust removes the waste from the system. We similarly discuss the body with those same types of terms. The heart pumps the blood around the system, the lungs oxygenate the blood so cellular metabolism can occur, the kidneys and bowels remove the waste from the system, and if you have kids, this honks the horn. Honk! So from that standpoint, in our scientific language, we see our bodies as a machine. This does that, this affects that, and the system breaks down from time to time, which is when we go to a doctor to get him or her to fix it. And similarly, if you think about it, this is the same message that we get from our religious institutions also. Our bodies are just a shell. They are temporary. They are the biological wheelbarrow that we use to carry our spirit around while we're here on Earth. Other than that, our bodies mean nothing within religion in the grand scheme of our spiritual existence. When we die, we say that our spirit leaves the body and goes off to heaven or some other place, and as far as the body goes, ashes to ashes, right? And neither of those are really accurate. The real truth about the body is somewhat different than what we're taught. The real truth about the body is much more spiritually connected than we're led to believe. And the real truth about the body is much more consciously connected than we are led to believe also. What science and religion both lack in understanding of the body is connected with the fact that the cells that make up our body are living, breathing, intelligent creatures who also have consciousness. The fact is that your body, my body, everyone you know's body, all have a separate consciousness from that of our own. And before I lose you, I know that might be a new crazy idea for you, so let's explain a little better what that means and look at some scientific evidence that it's a fact. Last week we talked about the mind and the brain and the difference between the two, and we discussed how the brain is a bunch of living, breathing, eating, thinking, conscious cells that communicate with each other and that wind up performing functions both for themselves and for us, that help us live longer and through our conscious partnership with them even help us enjoy our lives a little bit better. One of the main points from last week is that your brain cells have a separate consciousness of their own. And if you think that's just a way out of the ballpark idea, I ran into a quick video clip this week on TED.com that shows the latest brain science is actually starting to come around to these same types of conclusions.
Music. And so I'm going to try to talk to you over the next few minutes about my career in terms of how I'm able to actually try to study music and really try to grapple all these questions of how is the brain able to be creative. I've done most of this work at Johns Hopkins University, but also at the National Institutes of Health, where I was previously. I'm going to go over some science experiments and try to cover 3 musical experiments. I'm going to start off by playing a video for you, and this video is a video of Keith Jarrett, who's a well-known jazz improviser, and probably the most well-known, iconic example of someone who takes improvisation to a really higher level. I've always just, as a listener, as just a fan, I listen to that and I'm just astounded. I think, how can this possibly be? How can the brain generate that much information, that much music spontaneously? And so I set out with this concept scientifically that artistic creativity, it's magical, but it's not magic, okay? Meaning that it's a product from the brain.
Now, obviously that isn't all of that video. After that, Dr. Lim goes through his 3 experiments where he shows where the creation process occurs in the brain when improvisational jazz is being communicated. And you can see the rest of that video at TED.com. But as a piano player myself, I can tell you that the subject who was playing the piano was not really playing that piece. His brain cells were the entities who were actually doing the lion's share of the work there. Yes, it certainly looked like he was playing, and yes, his conscious input was probably even introducing concepts from what he learned in his music theory classes, transitions, mode inversions, key changes, but overall, the subject was turning over the composition of that piece to the spontaneous creation process, which is another way of saying that he turned the performance over to the spontaneous cellular activity of his brain cells. And I can say that because I speak from experience, not that I can spontaneously create a whole concert like that. My body is not that talented, but I've learned some songs so well in the past that I can turn the whole song playing process over to what today we call muscle memory, where I'm just sitting there, listening to the music, and my hands are magically playing the piece perfectly. But my mindful consciousness isn't driving the bus there. I'm not intentionally playing the notes. In fact, you know, when I'm in that zone, I couldn't tell you what part of the song is coming next, and if you interrupted me from playing for any reason, I would have no idea how to restart where we stopped. And I'd have to start at the beginning of the song where the muscle memory started, where that pattern has been built up in the brain cells. And that's how detached my mindful consciousness gets sometimes from that piece. That's not me playing. It's the consciousness of my brain cells doing their thing, which we call muscle memory. Professional basketball players, professional golfers, and just about any other type of professional athlete has that type of capability in their bodies, where they just kind of let the shot happen, where they just feel it, where they're just there watching it happen, letting their body do its thing. And so what's really happening there when the body performance is at its peak levels is that the cells themselves become conscious of what your intentions are. And just like we discussed last week, they're performing at the best of their ability toward your conscious intention in reaction to your conscious will. Knowing that the cells are alive, living, thinking, conscious creatures, the body-mind interaction becomes an amazing dance. And a beautiful one, even if you just sit back for a second and allow yourself to be amazed at the grace that occurs when you simply get up and go get yourself a drink of water from the kitchen. But that said, that's not even the mind-blowing part. The thing that's really going to rock your boat is the thing that we're going to talk about next. It's easy to see our bodies as our servants in life. We're taught by science that our bodies are, one, the culmination and totality of who we are, including the source of our consciousness, yet two, that in contradiction to that are machines that are under our control and that have autonomic or involuntary processes that keep the machine going, and or we're taught by religion that the body is a shell, a creation of God that serves as a vehicle to carry our spirit around. And whichever one you believe, both suggest we're in charge of the body. But when we take just one closer look at the body from a body-mind-spirit model perspective, it's easy to see how none of that can possibly be that simplistic. And in reality, it's a partnership instead of a hierarchy. First, there's the functioning of the body itself. Respiratory, circulatory, nervous system, digestive system, immune system, all of these critical life prolonging functions are not put into your hands. They are the responsibility of the cells themselves. And evidence of consciousness is all over the place there. From a scientific perspective, the heart beats autonomically, yet it's the regulating cells of the heart rate that increase and decrease the beats per minute to serve up more or less oxygen, depending on the physical needs of other cells all the way across the body. Do you make that call? Yeah, we're gonna need some more oxygen for the leg muscles so I can go for a run now. Or do they simply react as required after speaking with each other to ensure that the cells are getting what they need? Your pupils constrict and dilate automatically without your input so as to protect other cells in the optic nerves and or provide more light so as to better see dangers and or food. When your tendons get stretched too tightly, too quickly, like when the doctor hits you on the kneecap, your muscles move to defend against a tear in the tissues without your permission. That's why your leg kicks. And you could still be in the camp that says these are autonomic or involuntary functions, but when you look at things like white blood cells that form pseudopodia, which are temporary feet, so that they can climb upstream against the flow of blood on a vein or artery wall to get to a pathogen, that's kind of a decision-making ability that denotes intelligence, and that denotes consciousness. It's a fact that when you burn your hand on the stove, the message only makes it to your backbone before a little guy there decides to initiate to move the muscles so as to jerk your hand away from the heat. Your mind, you, the brain, doesn't even get any input there. Science calls that an involuntary reaction. Really? Involuntary. From whose perspective exactly? Ours or theirs? Because their reaction is completely rational if you admit that there's a consciousness there. Cells in the body are in danger of being injured. Take action to sustain cellular life. Duh, cells are winning. And this little realization actually leads us a little deeper into the rabbit hole, because when it comes to the messages that we receive about the body from humans, from our society, that the body is a tool for us to use and or is just who we are, it turns out, are you ready? Because your ego's not gonna like this. It turns out that the evidence at hand kind of contradicts that assumption and suggests that we, the consciousness within, are actually second in command when it comes to being in control of our bodies. You see, from an observational perspective, the body's cells have a primary goal: to sustain cellular life. They are always doing things to prolong their survival, even in times of autoimmune diseases when the immune system gets confused. The cells are always focused on, one, doing the things that are necessary to prolong survival, two, communicating to your consciousness its urges for you to eat, sleep, and reproduce at every possible turn to prolong survival and perpetuate cellular existence. And 3, that they help you control the ship when it's convenient for you to help the body achieve its goals. T. Sustenance. So in reality, when it comes to your body, you're actually flying co-pilot. And you don't believe that? Just try doing something that's in direct contradiction of your cell's goal of prolonged survival. Step into the boxing ring with Mike Tyson. He's going to pop you in the head, probably just once, before your cells, who have given you conscious control to step into that ring, decide that you have somehow directed the body into a situation where it is not conducive for prolonged cellular survival, because when he pops you in your head, your brain cells start dying. And then when said punch occurs, they remove your conscious control of the body. Now, when Mike Tyson hits you and you fall out to the canvas, science calls this unconsciousness. Mike Tyson calls it just another day at the office. But during these loss of consciousness moments, does your body quit during these moments? No. Respiration, circulation, digestion, they're all fine. They operate normally. It's only your conscious control that has been removed so that the body can now initiate repairs to the damage your actions have caused. And it doesn't have to be boxing. Go drink too much alcohol in one sitting. Go smoke too much pot. Go play online poker for 4 days straight without sleeping. Do anything that is in contradiction to the body's goal of prolonged survival. And sooner or later, when your body decides you've done enough damage, your license to drive the body will be suspended. And after a time of repair, your privileges will be reinstated. So you can then go about finding food, finding shelter, or finding someone to shag. And here's the kicker there. If you don't like that thought, even though the evidence unconditionally supports it, go back and watch episodes 4 through 8, because it's simply your egoic preference that your conscious control be more important than that of your body's, even though the evidence suggests otherwise. And any idea to the contrary that puts you in the subordinate position, it puts you in the co-pilot seat, puts you second in command of your body, is uncomfortable for you. And yeah, plainly stating that you're playing second fiddle inside your own body is a bit harsh, but here's the reality. It's an equal partnership. You can't survive without your body, of course, but your body also can't survive and reproduce without your actions either. You are the one that finds the food to eat. You're the one who finds shelter. You're the one who says the right things to find someone to have sex with you under that shelter. But the realization that your body's cells have consciousness and that your body's cells have enough power in the relationship to be on top of the control hierarchy and yet allow you to drive the bus most of the time is actually a pretty wonderful epiphany if you think about it. Wonderful, you say? How so? Because first, it violently challenges your past assumptions that you're in this body experience alone, and that the body is simply a subset of your existence. In reality, you have trillions of little friends helping you make your life what you want it to be. Second, it challenges the thought that the body is the summation of your existence. It's not. Your body is your body, and you, while you do interact with that body, are a part of an awesome, bigger existence that includes a mind experience of that body and a true self of a blissfully divine, immortal, spiritual existence that we're going to cover moving forward. Your body's just the biological existence with a separate consciousness from your own. That consciously partners with you to be able to survive on this planet, but it's separate from you. Third, realizing your body has consciousness and a power to trump you if necessary opens up your eyes to the fact that you need to take better care of your body. I mean, over half of us are obese in this country now, and we need to get that under control. Fourth, if we acknowledge that there is an intelligence within us that communicates its desires to us about hunger, sex, etc., like we feel, we can then also consciously communicate our desires, health, wellness, pain reduction, back to the body and have the body listen to us. Acknowledging the consciousness of your body can improve your life. And it also can improve your perception of life, because knowing about body consciousness, how much more can you now appreciate how much control you do get most of the time, right? On all the stuff that you can do during the day. And how much more can you now appreciate all the little things that your mind-body connection affords you? The sight of a beautiful sunset, the warmth of the sun on your cheeks, the wonderful smell of flowers in bloom, the awesome explosion of a ripe strawberry in your mouth. These are all things that you get to experience because your body conveys them to you to enjoy. How much more awesome can hugs from your loved ones be when you marvel at the miracle of your human body and its capability to exist on this spinning rock that's flying through space that is this planet? And afternoons at the ballpark, and the sound of waves crashing on the sand, and the crisp, fresh air after a good rain. Or, for that matter, how awesome sitting in traffic can be. Okay, well, we'll get you to a point where sitting in traffic is awesome. And there's a whole other facet to cellular consciousness that we haven't even discussed. Your cells are living, breathing, intelligent, conscious creatures. And do all living creatures on the planet have a connection to God? Yes. So there's a connection to God from within your body, which you can tap into, and which we need to talk about in the future episode. But for now, we've probably covered enough for this week, so let's go to our homework. Okay, so homework for this week. If you want to take some time in meditation this week, what I'd like you to do is that instead of doing your regular meditation, I want you to focus on a part of your body. And I want you to see if you can't feel some life in that portion of your body. Start with listening for your hands or feet. Just sit in silence and try to feel the life in your hands or your feet or maybe your kidneys, because they are there and they are alive and they're conscious. Can you feel it there? Try it. Next week, we're going to discuss the communication channels of the body and your mind-body connection. You're not going to want to miss it, so subscribe if you already haven't. And don't forget to write us a review on iTunes and stop by to say hi on Facebook if you get a second. Facebook.com/IamSpirituality. You can interact with us there, you can make comments, you can take part in the contests, and you can share a podcast episode with your friends if you like. Whatever you can do helps us a lot because we don't have any marketing to spread the word, and I'm getting emails every day that say we're helping people. So if you send this stuff out, we certainly appreciate it. See you next week. Peace.